Thank you for tuning in to the Simple Sophisticate podcast, the show that is part of the Simply Luxurious Life online destination, cultivating true contentment, the art of living a life of quality over quantity. Visit the blog, The Simply Luxurious Life, at our simplified URL, tsll.co or thesimplyluxuriouslife.com to find the show notes for each podcast episode, as well as much more weekly content to elevate your everyday and deepen your contentment. From a Monday motivational post, recipes, videos of the cooking show series, style and decor inspiration, French and British inspired content, and readers' favorite regular weekly post, This and That, which is posted each Friday morning. Now to today's episode. Welcome to the Simple Sophisticate podcast, where intelligent living is paired with signature style. I'm your host, Shannon Ables. And whether you're listening on your commute, exercising, working in the garden, or sitting down with a hot cup of tea or a café au lait, thank you for tuning in. Let's get started. Welcome to the 366th episode of The Simple Sophisticate, and welcome to an episode for Anglophiles and travelers. As this episode airs, you will find me in England. I have returned after 18 months, and it has come not a moment too soon, as I love equally being in Britain as well as in France. And this trip has inspired me to share this particular episode. I'm sharing my first-hand travel tips for flying internationally to and arriving in Britain with ease and comfort. Now, keep in mind that some of the things I'm going to share would apply to any international trip. To ease the flight, the long flights, if you're flying, as I am, from the West Coast to Western Europe, so about a 9-10 hour flight, if it's a straight shot. But there are going to be some specifics that I'm going to share in this episode that I haven't shared in any other episode or post about my travels and what I'm doing this particular trip to make it just that, to make it comforting and something full of ease that helps me reduce the amount of jet lag as quickly as possible and really start to enjoy my trip immediately. But before I get to that detailed sharing, this week's Petit Plaisir is, no surprise, going to be Anglophile inspired. So tune in at the end of today's episode where I will share a simple little detail you can have in your home to bring Britain to you. Something that I use. In fact, I used it today. I use it nearly every single day. All right. And I'm excited to share with you today that we are going ad-free from beginning to end. So we have ads, yes, at the beginning and the end before this episode airs, but there is no interruptions from now until the end of our chat today. Okay, so as I mentioned, Britain has been calling. It's been calling since I got off the plane back in April 2022, if I'm being honest. And if it's calling you as well to hop on an international flight and cross the Atlantic or English Channel or whichever body of water or bodies of water you will have to cross to arrive on British soil, this is an episode I think you will find helpful to ensuring you have a wonderful trip to and arriving at your destination. So, if you're a longtime listener of this show, you know that I have had previous episodes about international travel. Back in 2018, I shared in episode 183 a detailed 17-point list on how to prepare for international travel. Now, this was inspired by a trip that I was taking at the time to Britain, but this list is not just about Britain. It is for any kind of international travel. It's the documentations you need to have ahead of time, things to have with you to make sure that you have everything in order. And so I'm not going to repeat those in today's episode, but if you want to go through all the specifics, again, more of the paper and the preparations legally and documentation wise, please listen to episode 183. And I've also had a few other episodes, which I will mention as they fit into our conversation today, so you can find everything that you need and would like to learn about. And with regards to that list that I share in episode 183, I always refer to it before every international trip I take, just to make sure that I have my ducks in a row so that I haven't forgotten anything, taken for granted anything that I think I know, but that's right, I forgot to do this. So feel free to check that episode out. And if you also already have my first book, there are all sorts of checklists and packing lists for international travel, specifically to France in that book, but with regards to packing for anywhere you are traveling to. But in today's episode, I'm going to share with you more specific tips and insights for traveling to Britain, specifically so that you can enjoy the journey to your accommodations as much as the trip itself once you arrive. Now, assuming that you have your passport all squared away, as well as your global entry pass, should you wish to utilize this swift admission through security, let's talk about everything else. Again, check out 183 for all the other details that are not mentioned in this conversation today. So let's begin with simply flying and getting the tickets. So everything depends upon where you are traveling from. Granted, this will affect your flight options, length of the flight itself, and the prices. And it also will determine how you best function when it comes to jet lag. Knowing yourself is key here. If you've traveled before, learning what you discovered as you have to deal with the jet lag, and again, how long you're going to have to fly is going to shift and change this. And I share this last point mentioning jet lag because I wrote a podcast episode just after I returned from my trip back in April 2022, episode 333, and I share what to do to lessen jet lag if you're flying, as I am, from the west coast of the States to Western Europe. And so I share all of the information that I discovered to be true in my own experience, as I always fly from either Seattle, Portland, LA, or San Francisco. And it's based on my experience. During my first few trips to Britain, when I was younger, had less money, I was trying to save money, as we often do. And in fact, it actually caused more stress. It made the actual flying process an absolute, I wouldn't say horror, because everything luggage-wise was fine, but you're exhausted, and then you're not comfortable, and then you can't sleep, and then being someone who's tall, it was really uncomfortable. And so I started to think about, when I'm able to, I'm going to explore how to make the flights part of the vacation. Because it is possible. It absolutely is. And investing in reducing exhaustion so you can enjoy your trip is something to invest in if you can do it. And that's what that episode is all about. That's episode 333. So back to getting the tickets secured. When I'm able to plan at least 4 to 5 months in advance, I purchase a business class ticket. And as I mentioned before, I fly out typically from Seattle. I have flown out of LA. I have flown out of all the other West Coast international airports before. But Seattle has been most frequent because it's closest and it has the most direct route to London. As many of you know, I live in Bend, Oregon, so of course we don't have direct flights from Redmond, which is our airport here. Redmond then I take a commuter plane from Redmond to Seattle in this case. So there is the first leg that is not a direct flight, but once I get to Seattle, I take a direct flight. I also subscribe to my airline of choice, which for me is British Airways. My first opportunity to fly on British Airways, I was just absolutely impressed with the service, the welcome. It also didn't hurt that when I had already paid just for a ticket for economy, that because the flight was not that fully booked, they upgraded me to premium economy. And just that difference was wonderful. So I had just a really good taste in my mouth with British Airways. And then when I flew my first business class flight, it was with British Airways. And then the service was through the roof, phenomenal. The food, of course, with lots of tea and classic British fare. I was sold. I have had wonderful experiences on other airlines, but this is just my preference. And so, whichever airline of choice you fly on, I recommend signing up for their newsletter. For the obvious reasons, you become alerted to different sales throughout the year. I've also signed up for their what they call executive club, where I will accumulate points for future trips. But the newsletter for our airline, whichever airline you sign up for, they often will have a sale about 4 or 5 months out from when you want to travel or when these particular tickets are going to be taking place, that offer a significant amount of savings. So, for example, British Airways recently had a sale for tickets in January, February, and March that were more than half the regular price. Now, of course, I would have loved to scoop that up, but I wasn't planning on traveling at that time. With that said, I know, and I have experienced this in the past, that is when you want to scoop them up, because yes, those other prices that you go online, you see the regular prices look absurd for business class, but you really can find them at great deals. And of course, you can also work with travel agents to help you find that. Now, there often are errant assumptions. I want to talk a little bit about this business class ticket option. There are some errant assumptions that some people still have about business class. And the only reason I know about them is because I've been sharing in the last couple of years, this is what I like to fly. I mean, da-da-da-da. And one woman told me, well, I thought that you had to own a business or you had to be traveling for business to fly business class. And no, you don't. And while this was originally why business class was created, the section in between first class and coach, it was created so that there was more comfort for business people to fly and more amenities so they could work while they were traveling. There is no prerequisite that you must be traveling for work or business. Wherever you are going, if you are willing to pay for the ticket is yours. I've included a helpful post that details the history and various delineations of this or use of this term that was posted on a website titled Alternative Airlines. So I've linked that on the show notes if you want to learn a little bit more about the whole concept of business class. And while you may not prefer British Airways to fly to Britain, I know a lot of people fly Virgin Airlines, and there are others. Whichever airlines you fly, sign up again for that newsletter and stay apprised of the sales. And so long as you're booking out 4 to 5 months, you're probably going to get a great deal if you kind of know when you want to travel. Now, it has been my experience, as I shared before in the aforementioned episode 333, I would rather wait a few more months to travel due to having to save up in order to afford that business class ticket so that I can be comfortable for that 9 to 10 hour direct flight and arrive rested and ready to enjoy my flight, then have to ride in coach after having flown some very uncomfortable flights in my younger traveling days, as I mentioned before. That's why it's taken me 18 months to get back to Britain, but it's going to be worth it. In fact, I should say it is worth it because as you're listening now, I'm already there. But it is definitely worth the wait. The trip, as I mentioned, no longer begins when you touch down in your destination of choice. It begins when you arrive at the airport, rather than 2 days after I arrive or you arrive, because we're dealing with the jet lag. So that's why, yes, it may cost a little bit more. We may not be able to travel as frequently as we want, but if we want to enjoy the full breadth of our vacation that we have taken off from work, why not invest so that you can begin the moment you step into the airport? Why? You're going to get great service. You're going to get space to be more comfortable. And I'm just going to say it again. You're going to be comfortable. You're going to be able to relax. As well as while you're waiting for your flight at the airport, you have access to the lounges for your airline and all the food and all the drinks. Yes, we're talking alcohol too if you would like to drink some alcohol, but all the food, everything is entirely free. And so this is a tremendous savings if you look at it from that point of view, especially if you have a very long layover, which I always do in Seattle, both coming and going. I have at least 5 hours, it seems, based on the timeline that I always try to fly. And so then I can have my lunch or my dinner or whatever it might be, my tea, if it's in the evening, an aperitif. And It just allows me to work, but continue to relax, to be comfortable, and not be shuffling around with my luggage in an airport full of people. And especially if this layover is at the beginning of my trip, I usually have work that I have to tend to make sure I get certain blog posts done or edited or tend to different emails. And knowing I can get that work done comfortably in a place that is quiet, fairly quiet, is so nice, and it is more conducive to quality work, so that when I step on that plane, work doesn't actually have to be done. It is already finished. And I can start to really enjoy my vacation before I have even arrived. All right, so that's my spiel about flying business class, if you have the opportunity to do it, and how to find affordable ticket prices. They are out there. All right, let's move on to clothing and accessories for the flight. Now, this one could be pertinent to just about anywhere you're going. The clothing choices I'm going to choose and share with you, some of them are very specific to Britain, but most of them are not. So having a full day of travel ahead of me, usually 14 hours when I leave Bend to when I arrive in London at least, but I do try to keep it within 14 hours, if not a little bit less than that. Again, that's going to help reduce the jet lag. And I will sleep on the plane. I do and am able to sleep on the plane when I'm in business class. I have learned a few things that work best for me with regards to my wardrobe after trying a couple of different approaches over the years with this same flying pattern. I'll walk you through that in a second. So I usually leave in the early afternoon here from Bend, and then my flight will leave from Seattle in the evening, so around dinner time, so that I arrive in London at about 1 or 2 in the afternoon. So that means I'm going to basically be going right to bed after I do some work in the lounge, and then waking up and have a half a day left. So I now choose something that is comfortable enough to sleep in, but also stylish enough to be at the airport in and in the lounges and, on the plane while I'm awake. In other words, I have worn jeans or simply a decent outfit to travel in. And then what I would do is I would change into linen pajamas, so a full pajama set. I've done that before, and it makes sleeping very, very comfortable. And then you only have your pajamas for sleep, and then you change back out of them when you arrive. And this is still a good idea, and I will still probably do this in the future. However, with my flight only being 9 hours, direct flight from Seattle to London, what I'm reverting to or changing to is an idea or an outfit where I don't have to change at all, because that does get a little hectic at the beginning of the flight and at the end of the flight, because the bathrooms are small and just that whole digging out your clothes, finding them, changing, whatever. But again, I would highly recommend doing that if your flight is much longer than 9 hours. But the key thing is comfort. Whatever you are doing, make sure it's comfortable, because you do want to be able to get some sleep. So now what I wear a jersey midi length dress that's a bodycon. So it's very slim, but it's made of jersey, so it's very comfortable, and it's long enough, but not terribly long. Just hits at the middle of my calf. And I've included a picture of the actual dress I've purchased in different colors, so that it provides enough coverage, has supple fabric for comfort while I sleep, and is stylish enough to be accessorized with ease. This is also a dress that I can then launder once I reach my destination or my vacation rental, because it will have then been worn for a long, long day, and I will have slept in it. So I want it to be clean, because I'll likely wear it to come home in, unless I have a couple dresses, which I did buy 2 of these dresses actually, but I always want to have options, so I will launder this when I'm over there. And that's again why I've chosen this particular dress. It can easily be laundered. It'll still look like new when it's dried and washed. Again, simplicity, but marrying that with style as well. Now, with regards to accessorizing, I bring my trench coat. Again, this is because I'm going to Britain. It's not summertime. It's a traditional trench coat, so it's going to hit below the knee. And I will wear in the winter a wool trench coat instead. I wear a ribbon scarf, or a little bit wider or in a different fabric if it's in the winter or colder months. And then I wear a Rothy pointed toe nude flat. And I wear flats. I always like to wear flats, and I like to wear slip-ons like this but I want something that's stylish. I don't want to wear a sneaker with laces. Those are too uncomfortable for me. But the Rothy, if you know anything about Rothy, they have sustainable thread, number one. It's like wearing, I don't know how to describe this. It's like wearing, it's not like jersey. It has a little more structure than jersey, but you're not wearing leather or canvas. It's not going to rub. They're so comfortable, but they still have structure. And I choose nude colors, but they have all sorts of colors. I've included 4 different colors, one leopard, one classic, very much like a Chanel flat, on the show notes if you want to shop those. I love these. I live in them at home, but I also always travel in them, and they're easy to take off, and my feet they can breathe. But they're slim and they're chic to lengthen the leg. That's why I like the pointed toe. And then the last bit of accessorizing is my watch, and I wear no other jewelry because I don't want to lose it, especially if I'm sleeping. I want to be comfortable. All right, so that's what I travel in clothing-wise, but you might be wondering, what do you pack to visit England, or Britain, I should say? And I wrote and shared a detailed post about what to pack if you're visiting Britain in autumn. So right now, if you're visiting Britain in the next 3 months, I know some of you are. I want to say hello to Danny, wishing you a wonderful trip, Danny, later this fall. But I've shopped a specific wardrobe both for city and also country, because there are different things you'll need for both, but some of them will cross over. And that's episode 263, Timeless Seasonal Style Autumn in Britain. And I guess there is one more thing with regards to accessorizing. You got to have your tote, and you're just not complete without a travel tote. My carry-on travel tote, I was so excited about this. My last trip, again, inspired this purchase because I needed a tote with a handle drop, and that's the height of the handle from the top of the tote, where I can easily slide my forearm through without it catching. And I am long arms, as many of you know, and the 9-inch drop on my current tote at the time was too short. It made it very uncomfortable and hard to put over my shoulder quickly and with ease. And so I shopped and I shopped and I shopped, and I finally found Longchamp. There was a consigned Longchamp canvas bag that was at 11-inch drop. They do not make 11-inch drops anymore. So excited about it. I only had to purchase it. I only had to pay about $100. But anyway, they make an extra long drop one now, and then they have their traditional drop, which is 9 inches, which is what most people need. If you're not taller than 5'10", it probably would work just fine. But again, check the drop before you buy your tote. I've shopped travel totes this summer on the blog, but I always have my travel tote, and I'll talk a little bit about what I put in that. So that's what I wear and accessorize with. But what do I put in my carry-on? So what do I put in that tote? Again, knowing it's going to be a flight where I'm sleeping, I'm going to wake up, but I'm also going to want to go to sleep comfortably. I'm someone who wears contacts, all those little details, just feeling refreshed, making yourself feel as comfortable as possible in a very odd place. Well, I have a couple toiletry bags that are very specifically designated to what they contain. My first toiletry bag is one where I only keep my makeup, and I don't wear much makeup. So this is a very small Longchamp toiletry bag, and I'll link to it on the show notes. Very, very narrow, not bulky at all. I can slip it in anywhere pretty easily. And so I only put my makeup there, and I put all my makeup, not just a few things that I might use. And so it fits it perfectly. Then I have a separate toiletry bag where I put my skincare, my simple prep and eye care essentials. So these are things that I would just use when I'm traveling. So I have another toiletry bag that's in my checked luggage that has all the other details. But whatever I'm going to need for my skincare routine that night and that morning on the plane, my contacts in the solution, dry shampoo, hand lotion, things that I'll want to make me comfortable while I'm sitting there for that long, toothbrush and paste, because yes, I do brush my teeth when I arrive before I get off the plane. I bring my facial wipes, my micellar facial wipes to clean my face and apply my makeup again when I get there. Deodorant, lip balm, those are all the things that I need on the plane. Now this is, as I mentioned, does not include all the other toiletries that I may need. That's in my checked luggage or in my carry-on luggage. This is just for my tote. The reason I have 2 separate toiletry bags is so that I can easily know where to find what I need quickly. And sometimes I keep one bag right there with me, next to me in my business class seat, and then leave the other underneath my seat or in the above bins. Then in the tote, just loosely in the tote, I have all my tech and entertainment and relaxation essentials. This includes my portable charger, and I've included a link to the one I recently purchased. It's small and it's mighty. It's from Nimbles. It comes highly recommended from Wirecutter. I have my magnetic phone and AirPods charger, my AirPods, my laptop, planner, any books. If I have a Kindle, I bring that. Any other reading material. Maybe I brought, the paper for the day, picked up that or whatever. I also always have my writing, a place for my writing, so a journal and pens or pencils. And I also bring a cashmere zipped hoodie jacket. So it's easy to pack. It doesn't take up a lot of space, but it's super warm once I take my trench coat off and I'm in my chair, so that I don't have to wrap a blanket around me yet because I'm not going to sleep. Maybe I'm having dinner or right when I wake up. I like to have this with me for an extra layer of comfort and warmth. And then I also pack, new to me this year, is a mini humidifier, which I've talked about on the blog, from Hey Dewey. It's very small and portable, and you get on the plane and it's empty, but then you can fill it up with some water, and it just gives you some moisture in the air and keeps your skin fresh. And then I also have my empty water bottle, my Hydro Flask. Oh, last but not least, I always pack a very simple, I've had it with me for years, silk eye mask. And then, just to be safe and make sure I have one with me once I land in the UK, I have one adapter. I have many in my checked luggage, but I usually put one adapter in my carry-on or my tote, should it take a while to find my luggage. Just to remind us what the UK adapter is, you're looking for type G for the United Kingdom. And the plug-in, if you're looking at it, just, if you're to describe what it looks like, it has those 3 rectangular pins in a triangular pattern. And so I've linked to the one that I recently purchased. I'm always updating and trying to polish and perfect the ones I have. This one, I bought a couple of them, has 3 different plugins, so you can plug in 3 different American cords, and then it goes into one outlet. And it also has USB port and a lightning port and a USB-C. I always misremember all the different ports for tech devices, but it has 3 different ones on it, as well as the traditional plug-in for like your hair dryer or whatnot. All on one, and it's actually fairly compact. Anyway, I have a link to that on the show notes. Other things I stick in my tote are my reading glasses, because I will take my contacts out, and of course my travel wallet, which is a little bit larger than my typical wallet because it contains my passport, room for my flight and transportation tickets that I've already printed out or were printed out for me, currency to use immediately, such as cash and coins that I have reserved from previous trips. I have my Tube Oyster card ready to go, my global entry card, and a card holder for credit cards and ID that can be removed and then placed in my usual handbag or clutch when I arrive. Now, I've shared on the blog that I was so excited about this travel. I have it right here with me now. I have this new travel wallet that's actually not called a travel wallet, but when I received it from Bay, and they're from Paris, I was like, oh, that fits everything I need. And it's a long wallet, envelope style, with a fastener. Has multiple card holders, slots, one place for coins. I love it. It is their Ayla Cassandra leather wallet. And for me, and there's multiple colors. And I love it. Has Liberty lining. Hello. Going to Britain, got to have Liberty fabric lining your wallet, right? Anyway, it's beautiful. And it's not that expensive. So I've linked to the profile post I wrote about Bay, which is a company that I highly recommend you check out for handbags, wallets, clutches, all those things. And having that with me just lets me know that I can arrive and be ready to rock and roll, depending on what I want to use for transportation to get back to my hotel or my vacation rental. And then we're going to Britain, so I have my travel umbrella with me on my carry-on. so that I don't have to rummage through my checked luggage to find it. Or if I don't have my checked luggage, it doesn't arrive at the same time as I do, I have my umbrella and I don't have to worry about getting wet. And if you're looking for a recommended brand of umbrella that's sturdy, well-made, and will last a lifetime, I wrote a detailed post about that during this last year's British Week. James and Sons Umbrellas. I highly recommend you visiting their shop on New Oxford Street in London. And that's where I've picked up my travel umbrella and my traditional umbrella. I love them. And last but not least, I packed my tea bags. These are my favorite French and English varietals. Now, granted, I'm flying on a British airline, so they will have wonderful tea. But this is just a habit I have gotten into, to always have my tea with me should I need it. But I actually very rarely ever need it when I'm in Britain because I want to try their teas. And I often come home with more tea bags with me from them because it's like, well, yeah, their tea is awesome. Anyway, that is the list of what I put in the carry-on tote. And it's all detailed on the show notes, the simplyluxuriouslife.com/podcast 366. But wait, we're not done. My carry-on luggage. Sometimes I bring a carry-on luggage, sometimes I don't. If I'm doing a straight shot to London, I don't, and I just wing it. I figure I can go shopping if things go really awry while I'm waiting. But when I do bring a carry-on luggage, I have shifted to using a new brand. This is a carry-on piece of luggage that just makes it so much easier to access, I guess is the main way of saying it. I use Props Luggage, and I've linked to it because I talked about it in a previous post, in a This and That post. I did receive one of their pieces of luggage in order to talk about it here on the blog, but I did not promise that I would recommend it. I love this piece of luggage. Here are my two main reasons why. It has a front opening. And what I mean by that is you don't have to open up your luggage accordion style and then things are, where are they? And they're equally heavy on both sides and it's just a pain. This one, you open it from the front. I love this. And so then you have access to everything right there in one fell swoop. And the other part, that's why they call it props, is the luggage has legs. And what I mean by that is it flips open its legs and it sits up like a tabletop so that once this luggage is closed, you can put your computer on top of it. You can put your feet on top of it. It's that sturdy. I love this piece of luggage. And it does have wheels too, so you can easily wheel it around the airport or whatnot. But if you're looking for luggage that works for you and provides ease of finding what you want in your luggage, I highly recommend you checking out Props. And I've linked to it on the website. I do not receive a commission with your purchase. I just received one piece of luggage for free without the promise of recommending it, but I do recommend it. All right, so what do I put in this piece of luggage if I bring it with me? This is where the rest of my toiletry bag will be. This is where I put my sleepwear. This is where I put one outfit, a casual outfit, should I need it. This is where all of my hair care needs are. And any delicate items or tech tools that I want with me for safekeeping. Everything else goes in my checked luggage. And that's the other part about traveling business class. You can get 2 to 3 bags checked for free. So typically it's 2 free bags for business, 3 checked bags for first class. And there you go. You're saving, again, a little bit of money. All right. So that's in my carry-on. So let's talk about this next section. You have packed everything you need. You have checked your checked luggage. You have your carry-on as you've designed it and chosen to be with you, what the items you've chosen to be with you. Now we're in flight. And I highly recommend making this part of your vacation and seeing it as part of your vacation. For me in the past, not always has the flight been comfortable. It's been frustrating. It's been stressful. It's been rushed, whatever. The more you travel, the more you learn how you are comfortable traveling. And so you just learn from previous experience. And this is what I've discovered. First of all, when I arrive at the if you are traveling business or first class, this will seem obvious, but in all sincerity, this is the moment when the vacation begins, when I arrive at the airport. At that moment, I am away from any responsibilities at home. I've tended to everything that I need to tend to. My pups, Norman and Nell, are in good hands, so then I can relax. And I just let the airlines and the airports tell me what to do, where to go, and pay attention and read the signs, right? So I love just following along. I'm not someone who typically follows, but in this instance, I let myself be a follower. Now, at the airport, of course, I'm staying alert. I don't mean to say don't be alert and don't be aware. Of course, you're going to be doing those things, but you let yourself not be responsible for so much, and that can take a lot off your shoulders. So we're at the airport. I arrive, as they always say, about 2 hours before for international flights, check my luggage, use my global entry pass to swiftly move me through security lines. And this, too, is a worthwhile choice if you travel regularly internationally, because you have to renew this every 5 years. But I can remember in 2022, people were just getting started traveling. This was April 2022, so just barely getting started traveling. And it seemed like everyone had a global entry pass. We had time, during the pandemic to get it, to do all that. Anyway, but then I reminded myself, no. If you think this line is bad, and it wasn't ever bad, it was fairly swift each time. No. The line will be much worse if I didn't have this. And the security pass-through lines would be much more invasive without the global entry pass as well. And so if you are traveling business or first class, another benefit and perk is sometimes you get special attention to move you swiftly through the lines in certain airports. Sometimes there's even another line for you if you're first or business class. But this will be depending upon your airline and the airport, and they can just see that on your ticket and they'll direct you where to go. So while you're waiting for your flight, you've checked in, you've gone through your security, head to the lounge for your airlines and enjoy free food and drink. Find a comfortable seat and table and often quiet atmosphere, and it will truly feel something very similar to a mini spa moment that will help you to begin to decompress. Sometimes, depending upon the airlines and the airport, there will be a separate lounge for first class versus business class. So, for example, at Heathrow, there is a separate first class lounge versus business class. I'll tell you that business class lounge in Heathrow, and there are a couple, can be very busy, but even then you're still getting all the free food and drinks. But they do have a separate one for first class. And this is, again, you don't have to know this ahead of time. Once you go to the lounge, you show them your ticket, they'll tell you specifically which lounge you can go into and where it's at. So don't worry about, trying to find that. They will help you find that. Now, this may also be a time when you will want to shop duty-free at the airport. I don't typically do this, but this is also part of the benefit of shopping at the airport, having the duty-free. All right, so you are at the airport. You are ready to fly. Let's take flight, shall we? So in flight, take your time once you've been shown your seat and set up your area as you need it. Many airlines have a business class that have seats that are completely reclinable. They lay flat into a bed. So you also have more room for your tote, all your toiletries, your different bags, your books, your totes. So you can tuck them into more places rather than put them up in the overhead bin. Take your time to set this up, because often you are on the plane. You're going to be able to get on the plane first, and you will have that time. There's going to be no rush. And then settle in. They usually have a welcome drink or nibble. Take advantage of that. Say yes. If you have some work you will need to do, enjoy the comfort of the space to do so with ease. While you're in flight, watch new films and shows on their entertainment system for free, and just generally let yourself do what you will most enjoy, all in the comfort of your own small and often private space. So in British Airways, and I've noticed that while a lot of places in their British business class have the reclinable seat all the way to a bed, not all of them allow you to have a door that shuts off to everyone else. Now, British Airways does. I love this because then no one can look into your cubicle while you're flying. Not that people are going to want to do that, but you just have this privacy, this enclosed space. Of course, they can always look over the top. The airline staff can always see in. It's not totally enclosed on top, but on the sides. And so you do really get to cocoon yourself in many ways. Now, when the meals are served, enjoy the service of the staff. It's usually impeccable. The presentation of the meals is not on plastic, it's on porcelain in the case of British Airways. And they'll offer you, beverages and spirits, a little wine, a glass of your favorite mixed drink. It won't hurt you, and it might even help you fall asleep. Just remember to hydrate with water throughout the entire trip. Now, when you choose to go to sleep, wear something comfortable, snuggle under that blanket, set up your pillow, recline your chair, and they do give you pillows, recline your chair all the way back and down, put your eye mask on if you wear one, and catch some Z's. This is part of your vacation. Enjoy. All right, so you're up, you're ready to go, you're getting off the plane, you've arrived at Heathrow, and you're heading to your accommodations. Now, you can absolutely hail a taxi, or maybe you probably had scheduled a taxi ahead of time. And based on my remembrance of the calculations of how much a taxi costs from Heathrow to the heart of London, last time it was about £85 plus tip. That's a lot of money. And I did this for 2 different trips, and just do it. And you're like, I need to get to the airport, if I'm going home, or I need to get to my accommodations, and this will just make sure that I do so with ease, especially when you have luggage, which most of us are going to have, more than just a carry-on or a tote, because we're going to have more luggage. But you can also take the tube, and I've done that too, directly from Heathrow to the desired station in London that was close to where I was staying on that particular trip. However, and many of you already know I'm going to share here, let me introduce you to a better option that is both swift and comfortable, but also will save you money, which is a beautiful marriage of the 2 previous mentioned options of either a taxi or the tube. While there are a lot of factors to consider when it comes to which transportation is best, where you are heading, how much luggage you have, your budget, etc., if you are traveling with at least one large piece of luggage and will be staying in or near the heart of London, the best choice for ease, swift arrival, and budget is the dedicated airport train, which is called the Heathrow Express. This was recommended to me by the staff at the hotel where we stayed at last time at the Savoy, and we didn't take advantage of it then, but I am taking advantage of it on this trip. And in fact, when you're listening to this, I will have already taken it from Heathrow to my hotel, and I will be including an update on the show notes so you can see how it went. Heathrow Express only goes from 2 places, Heathrow Airport to Paddington Station in London. Now, they do have to get to Terminal 5, which is where British Airlines is located. So you do 2 different terminal stops, Heathrow Terminal 5, and then all the other terminals. And then you just head straight to Paddington, which is about a 15 to 20-minute trip. That's it. No other stops. And I'll share some more details about Heathrow Express in just a second. But first, if you're taking the tube, because either you have very little luggage or you just want to save money, and again, Heathrow Express is not that expensive. I'll share the prices here in a second. You're looking for the Piccadilly line. The Piccadilly line winds up at Heathrow, and from there you can navigate to where you want to go. So just, whatever lines you need to get off on and go on to. And I've linked to a detailed post I shared about how to use the tube, 16 different tips for taking the tube to navigate London with ease. I wrote this 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, and it's on the show notes if you want to check it out. This will take you a bit longer, about 60 minutes from the airport to downtown London because of all the stops the tube has to make. That's still not that bad. Again, if you have a lot of luggage, though, you might want to consider the Heathrow Express. So let's talk about that. So as I said, it goes from Heathrow to Paddington Station, and the cost is minimal. For a round-trip ticket in economy class, and this is, again, about 15-20 minutes each way, you're only paying a total. So this is both to the airport and back. So if you buy a round-trip ticket, £37. That's it, £37 total. Well, want some comfort? Buy first class or business class. That's £55, both ways. And the beautiful part about when you book your tickets online, if you book them in advance, you can buy them there as well, is that you're not stuck to a certain time. So when I purchased my tickets for this trip, I just have to arrive at some point within a couple days on my arrival trip. And then for my return trip, within a month. within a month. So you're not stressed about another time on the schedule to arrive at. You can get there when you get there, then you hop on the train and it takes you to the airport. That is a huge relief. And again, there's all different tickets and different prices, but look at their website. I've linked to it on the show notes. I've also linked to another website that has even more helpful tips on how to navigate getting to the airport. It's called London Toolkit, and the link is on the show notes. All right, so that's how we're getting to our hotel or our accommodations, and then also back to the airport from our accommodations at the end of our trip with ease, comfort, and saving a little bit of money as well. Actually, a lot of money. All right, so this last section, I want to talk about those first few hours after you've arrived, basically settling in and trying to mitigate the jet lag. So depending upon when you arrive during the day, what you will be able to do will vary. However, as I shared in episode 333, I try to leave Seattle in the evening and then a straight flight to London, which gets me to London about 1 or 2 in the afternoon. This gives me about 5 to 7 hours to get some exercise, find and settle into my accommodations, and generally begin to acclimate to the time zone. Here is what I try to do during these first handful of hours in the city, as I usually will at least stay for one night before I hop on a train to head out to the countryside where the rest of my trip will likely be enjoyed. So first, I give myself enough time to get on the Heathrow Express and arrive at Paddington, and then find a taxi to take me to my hotel or my vacation rental. I then check in, and I've let my hotel know approximately when I'll be there. They usually will ask your flight number and whatnot so they can keep an eye on it. So some places will let you check in early if they can do that. So it's always a good idea to let them know. And then I set in and unpack my luggage and just kind of set up my hotel room. But then I head out to go walking. So this might be to take a tour or visit a museum. Anything that will keep me on my feet and getting some exercise and some outdoor air in between destinations. And I also, since you're in London, I recommend going to one of the 8 royal gardens. So if you're down the heart of London, you can go to Hyde Park, Green Park, and I want to bring your attention to a lovely garden. It's only open between 12:30 and 3 on weekdays, and you want to check specifically if you know which day you're going to arrive, because some days they do close entirely. But if you're looking for a very restful, tranquil, green space with a beautiful garden that is free, I recommend you going to visit Inner Temple Garden, and it's right on the Thames. It's very close to the Savoy and very walkable. But again, it's only open between 12:30 and 3. And if you're like me, I have a feeling you would really enjoy it, being a garden lover. And if you're going to Britain, you probably do love gardens in some regard. So definitely something to check out. Again, that's called the Inner Temple Garden. So finding and figure out what to do can be done ahead of time, but also you might just want to let yourself ramble and just start wandering. Take your Oyster card with you. You can buy that online ahead of time, ahead of your travel, and have it sent to you. Have that done about, take care of that about a month ahead of time. And then you could have it forever. I just keep refilling mine. I've had it for years and using it again and again on each trip. That just helps me get closer to a certain destination so I don't totally walk and hurt my feet if certain places I want to go are farther away. And then if I'm hungry while I'm wandering, I will step into a neighborhood restaurant for a nibble, or if I'm not too famished, and I usually am not, because the plane ride, they usually feed us pretty well, I wait and I go to the hotel's restaurant if it's one of note. Just on that first night, keep it simple, reduce spending for cabs and whatnot. And then I always make sure I'm bringing my umbrella. So especially in the fall and spring, well, in winter for that matter, make sure I have my travel umbrella with me while I'm tootling about during these first handful of hours before night arrives. There may be some shops that I want to pop into that are nearby the museums or tours that I'm visiting. And so I really just let myself say hello to the city. Now, if I have chosen to have dinner at the hotel, afterwards, I will go on a walk if I'm close to the Thames or one of the royal parks. Even if it's at night, I love walking along the Thames. The first time I visited London back in 2012, That was our first evening. We walked on the Thames. We had our raincoats on and walked under the Tower Bridge. It's just because it was my first visit, and it was one of those things. I always feel safe in London, especially since you have your Oyster card. You can hop on the tube. Anyway, and it's a very walkable city. Then I am more than ready for a deep sleep. I've exercised, I've ate, I've kept myself awake, but not for too long. I think sometimes we push ourselves too much and then you're really not enjoying this first welcome to the city. But then I head back to the hotel or my vacation rental. If I have a bathtub in my room, I will take a bath, soak in it until I cannot keep my eyes open any longer. And then I will head to bed for usually a very deep sleep that will come very quickly. And then the new day comes. The next day, the first full day in England arrives. I will wake up realizing I am officially and really back in England. I don't have to pinch myself or wake myself up from a dream. And I will gather up all of my excitement and begin the trip I have been planning for quite some time. And so there you have it. I hope there's something, a nugget in there somewhere that inspired you to add a little more comfort and ease to your international journey to and arrival at Britain. And again, I'm so excited to be back. If you would like to see glimpses of my trip, so I shared this in the last episode. And I shared it in a recent this and that. I'm not sharing a lot of images or videos or IG stories during my trip this time. I'm making a bit of a shift here to align more with the ethos of living simply luxuriously. What I am going to do is share detailed travel diaries on the blog for top tier members exclusively. There will be at least 2 of these detailed blog posts with pictures of where I am, what I'm up to, what I've found, what I've discovered, what I think you'll enjoy. And they'll be shared on Thursday and Tuesdays. I might be able to post 3. It just depends on some details, but for sure I'm posting 2. And these will be in lieu of the Wednesday post next week and the Monday motivational post next week. Rest assured that this and that post will be live every Friday while I'm traveling. I will not leave you hanging there. I have all sorts of things on my diary or my journal to share with you each Friday. And the cooking show will continue to go on its schedule of every other Saturday. But if you are wanting to get a glimpse into my trip, it's because the travel diaries are going to be more personal. Very personal, in fact. And that's why I created the soft paywall in the first place. There's some things that I don't want everyone to be able to see. So if you're considering becoming a top tier member, now would be a great time, especially if you're an Anglophile. Like, I'm excited to share with you what I've found. And speaking of what I've found, this week's Petit Plaisir is inspired by what a handful of top tier members and I had the opportunity to do yesterday in London. We, as the grand giveaway of the British week this past May, the grand giveaway was the champagne afternoon tea. And I haven't shared until today where that grand giveaway location was going to be. We had champagne afternoon tea at the Palm Court in the Ritz in London. And I will be sharing pictures and information and details about that in the travel diary that's going to be shared tomorrow on the blog for top tier members. But needless to say, yeah, I love high tea, and to share it with people that have been regularly contributing and engaging here on the blog from both America and England. It's a very special opportunity and treat for me. I feel fortunate to be there, and I'm grateful to be able to let top tier members see and meet each other in person that they've been talking to or with online for years. So with that said, the Petit Plaisir has to do with tea. I'll be right back to share with you what that is. So this week's Petit Plaisir is a classic, an iconic British teapot. It is the Brown Betty teapot. Since 1695, the Brown Betty teapot refers to the classic and trusted non-drip spout that is made of red Etruria marl clay, and it sports a transparent or dark brown Rockingham glaze and a familiar portly body. I want to share this detail or bit of history that the site of Brown Betty online shares. Quote, by 1926, the Staffordshire pottery industry was making approximately 500,000 Brown Betty teapots per week. And despite this, surprisingly little is known about the object itself or its early history and design development. This affordable, utilitarian, and unpretentious object has largely gone unnoticed, disappearing into the fabric of everyday life. End quote. And it's true. Watch a different British show, any British show, past or current, and you will see, most likely in one or many of the scenes, a Brown Betty. Now, it might be under a knitted cozy, but most likely you're going to see, it's going to be very commonplace to see a Brown Betty teapot. So there are, in fact, actually, I was watching an American show, Madam Secretary, and Téa Leoni actually had a Brown Betty teapot as well. Anyway, they are ubiquitous in England and across the globe if you are an Anglophile and love your tea. And they have all different sizes. They have 2 cups, 4 cups, 6 cups, and they're all in the traditional brown. They used to have a cobalt or a dark blue color available. On their home site, those are no longer available. I was able to pick one up back in 2019. So I actually have a cobalt blue Brown Betty for a 4-cup teapot. You can still find them. They just won't be directly from the source, the British website that sells them. Calden Ceramics is the name of the company that sells these teapots online. And I've linked to them on the show notes. Like I said, they are very affordable, all different sizes, and yeah, they do not drip. That is my big must-have with any teapot, is they can't drip. And as one reader of the blog who lives in England told me, the key thing is for the spout and the handle to be approximately the same height from the ground. And this helps the no drip or non-drip to be secured. Anyway, whichever tea varietal you most enjoy. I was going to recommend the tea varietals that the Ritz shares, but the Ritz does not sell their tea online. They keep pretty close to their vest, their teas. You can buy them in their gift shop. So if you have the opportunity to be in their gift shop and pick those up after an occasion of enjoying afternoon tea, but they do not sell them online. But you can have an English teapot, a classic English teapot. Fill it with hot water and your favorite tea varietal and enjoy. So in the spirit of today's episode and being in England as this episode goes live, I thought it quite appropriate to share with you this find, which, as I shared at the top of the episode, is a teapot I use nearly every single day. I love this teapot. So it is the Brown Betty teapot in the traditional classic brown color, as you would imagine. I hope you've enjoyed this week's Petit Plaisir, where each week ideas are shared to make the everyday all the more enjoyable. Tune in at the end of each episode where I'll recommend a book, a film, a show, a recipe, anything that is a simple pleasure to satiate your sophisticated taste. I want to thank you for tuning in today. And be sure to stop by this Friday for the weekly This and That, and look for the next episode of the show to air on Wednesday, October 18th. Until then, wishing you a wonderful rest of your day. Bonne journée. Thank you for tuning in to the Simple Sophisticate podcast, where intelligent living is paired with signature style. For more ideas and inspiration throughout the week, visit the blog, The Simply Luxurious Life, with the shortened URL tsll.co or thesimplyluxuriouslife.com. For more in-depth exploration of how to cultivate your own unique, simply luxurious life, pick up my new book, which became both a bestseller and #1 new release in France Travel, The Road to Le Papillon, Daily Meditations on True Contentment. Available in all 4 formats for your preferred reading or listening. My first book, titled Choosing the Simply Luxurious Life, and my second book, Living the Simply Luxurious Life, are also available in each of the 4 formats. Readers can now join the more intimate The Simply Luxurious Life international community by becoming members of the blog, which offers the benefits of ad-free reading site-wide, unlimited access and exclusive access to content on the blog, such as the monthly A Cup of Moments with Shannon video chat, tours of my home Le Papillon, the monthly What Made Me Smile post, and monthly Ponderings post, as well as the exclusive opportunity to enter all of the giveaways during the annual French and British weeks. To stay caught up on all things Simply Luxurious, the podcast, blog post, the cooking show, and receive exclusive news, as well as an extra dose of inspiration to jumpstart each new month, subscribe to the Simply Luxurious Live's free monthly newsletter, arriving on the last day of each month in your inbox. There is also a weekly newsletter, which is also free, and arrives each Friday to keep you caught up on the recent weekly posts on the blog. Enjoy with a hot cuppa or cup of morning coffee, and stay in the know about all things Simply Luxurious. Look for 2 new episodes of this podcast on the first and third Wednesday of each month. And until next time, I'm your host, Shannon Ables. Thank you for tuning in. Bonne journée.